Everybody. I hope everyone had a great day and welcome to another Bible study class. This evening, our health program will take its regular place. I'm Dr. Orville Campbell. Welcome to Inside Your Health with Dr. Orville Campbell. And I hope everyone, again, has had a great day. With me this evening is Michelle Lasware, who is a naturopathic practitioner. And we're going to be talking about her book, which has great content. It's called You Can Beat Genetics. And this is her second book. Today, we're going to concentrate on the portions of the book that involves her story, why she wrote a book, as well as supplements, herbs, and hormones. So we will get started in a second. I want to make sure Michelle is on. She's in mountain time, and I want to make sure that we did miscommunicate on the time. So she's on mountain time, which is an hour behind. So just give me a second to make sure she's not having any technical difficulties. So just give me 1 second, everybody. We invite you, if you have any questions, to please feel free to interrupt us. You can put it in the chat and we'll be happy to answer those questions. I remember sometimes back we had a discussion, a brief general overview, and herbs and supplements. We talked about the different herbs and supplements and how it relates to total health and well being, not just in terms of physical health, but as well as mental health, because we know that diet influences not only physical health and mental health. Now, tonight, we're going to talk about how our genetics or our genes can seem to predestine us to disease and unhealthy things, including um, addictive tendencies that can be passed on in the genes. But we're here tonight to talk about, yes, we can beat genetics. We can also rewrite our genetic code, not only by our lifestyle, but by our very words as well. And welcome, Michelle. I apologize for the
It was
miscommunication,
my fault.
Mountain
I
Time
got things
versus
mixed up.
Central Time. It's great to have you on. Michelle has been to Jamaica, and I think you've talked to an audience as much as 5,000 people. We met about 2006 ish, I think, Michelle.
Yep. Yeah,
I
2006,
think you're
7.
on mute.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Is it I? It may be me.
Can you hear me now?
Can I get feedback from the audience if they can hear me?
Yes, we are hearing.
I can hear them. And it doesn't show that, it shows my audio is working. Can your
Yes.
audience hear me?
It's
Yes,
it's
we can
actually
hear
was
you.
my fault.
We're hearing you.
Okay.
Okay, it's
I'm
actually
hearing
my
you.
fault.
I'm hearing you.
So Michelle, we met in about 2006ish, I think, in that time frame.
Correct. Matter of
Right.
fact, Jamaica was my place where my first book I wrote, that's where I got the title. And when I was with a wonderful Jamaican lady that is a dear friend of mine.
Okay. And at the time I met Michelle, I was trying to add natural products. I believe in Eastern medicine, Western medicine, as well naturopathic medicine. So at the time I met Michelle at a company I think called Cyberwise, and you were doing compounding of natural products. Is that correct?
Yeah, I helped formulate their products and then help educate what the products do, and why you would want to use them.
All right. So why genetics? Why a book about you can beat genetics? And what does genetics have to do with our mental health and our physical health, even our spiritual health? Why this book?
Well, like, I like to share my story when I first, you know, when I look at my family, I am such an anomaly. Everyone in my immediate family is sick or dead. My father had two cancers, a psoriasis that covered 75% of his body, and he died from one of them at the young age of 57. My mom had Crohn's disease, had ileostomy for 30 plus years, 50 major operations before she passed away. My brother also has Crohn's disease. He's on 23 meds, also an ileostomy, no quality of life, literally has to use oxygen. He's on Oxy and THC just to get through a day. My sister also had
And when
Crohn's
you say
disease.
oxy, you're talking about narcotics?
Yeah, yeah, oxycodone, or
Oh, wow.
just the drugs. Yeah, so he's on
Mhm.
opioids to control his pain and stuff. My sister also, both my mom, my sister, and my dad were morbidly obese, and my sister also had Crohn's disease, and she died at the young age of 47. So I married a fitness enthusiast, and so I ended up going down the healthy pathway. I made different choices, and my life has ended up in a much different place. I'm a grandmother of 10. I have an amazing quality of life. I've been married to my sweetheart for 45 years. And again, the choices that I made in my nutrition and supplementation. And we live in a time, our food is just not what it should be. In my book, I do explain in there all the things they're doing to our ground. Why? I mean, people don't realize in order to get the nutritional value of an orange from 1980, you have to eat 8 oranges today
Oh,
to get
wow.
that same nutrition. So supplementing to me is a must. And I believe it's what's made the difference of where I am today. I always tell people you pay for it on one end or the other, but you are going to pay for it. And cancer's not cheap. And I do talk about that in my book. It's 1 and 2 right now. It's a very that the amount of cancer we're seeing is incredible. And so there are a lot of things we can do through genetics to influence so that you can keep good switches on and bad switches off.
That's a good segue. What are genes and what is genetics? Some people may not understand those two terms. Mhm.
It's what you get from your mom and dad. I mean, half of your DNA comes from one parent and the other half comes from the other. And that determines what your genetic outcome is going to be. And even in nature, animals look for someone that has a completely different genetic system than they do because it improves their immune system and other things. So it's, again, what you inherit from your parents, why you get certain traits, why you get certain mannerisms. You think that, oh, it's from being around. I look at my granddaughter. I have a granddaughter that's 12, and she is my little clone. She looks like me. She has her gifts, and everything that she has is the exact same things I do. She is so much like me. It's almost weird to watch her because I see myself, and it's a weird feeling. And that's just genetically how things can come out. And,
Mhm.
and so, but I will say, understanding my genes and manipulating them like I have through the years, I believe has been the most important thing I have ever done for my health.
How did you escape the diseases that plagued your siblings and your mom and your dad? How did you escape that?
So I have like psoriasis. When you get my genetic test, is the number 2 thing. And like I said, my dad's 75% of his body was covered. I don't have any of those issues. And how I escaped it is when, there's some things I figured out intuitively, but then when I started getting into genes about 8 or 10 years ago, I
Mhm.
started realizing, oh, I have this. And that's the thing. Only 25% of our genes are in concrete. The other 75% we get to influence. And by learning what to avoid, that there are certain things that I need to avoid because of the genes I have, and then what is beneficial, then that's helped. It also helps me because what I understand that gene, and that's what my book talks about is, this is a gene, it's a cardiovascular or a neurotransmitter. We talk about people that have addictions. If you have certain genes that are neurotransmitter genes, you're going to have addictions. You're going to be more likely for mental health issues, dopamine problems. I talk about that in my book. And the thing is, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can go in and look at it, see what the consequences are, and say, oh, because of this, I'm going to want to avoid this, and I'm going to want to make sure that I'm using this so that I get a positive genetic expression.
Okay, great. Let's make a great segue to some hormones.
Okay.
Cortisol gets a bad rap because a lot of times, whether it's anger, whether it's obesity, whether it's abuse with alcohol and other things, or whether it's even insulin resistance from diabetes or individuals are pre-diabetic, our cortisol levels are high. Can you talk to us why cortisol packs on the pounds on our tummy and our hips, those areas that are so resistant to weight loss?
I did a presentation last week for a company, and this was one thing I hit hard. It's a huge problem in our society, and there are actual genes where you have poor, what they call glucogenesis, and you are going to naturally have higher cortisol than someone that doesn't have that gene. So, what does that mean? So, when the adrenals release cortisol, the liver responds with glucose, and then the pancreas responds with insulin. So, I tell people you don't even have to eat bad. When you are stressed and your body is releasing cortisol, you're going to put weight on in the midsection and you've changed nothing. You're like, well, wait, I haven't changed my diet, but I put all this weight on the midsection because that's what cortisol does. And cortisol isn't bad. Cortisol is designed, it's actually can be when you keep it in range. It's great for calming inflammation. It has its role, but its role was to hurry up, put out this fire, take care of this problem, and then calm down.
Right. It's not meant to stick around at high levels.
Yes.
It's almost like the body's natural steroids.
It is. And then the problem arises when it stays that too long. And even when you exercise, people don't realize that you release cortisol. It's just the name of the game is when you get done, you want levels to come down as quickly as possible. When I see people that overtrain, their levels take a long time to come down. They're like, well, I'm not seeing results. And I really believe in today's society, everyone, I don't care who you are, needs to be on an adrenal support. It's just the world we live in. Little children I see are stressed out. And again, reality, back to mindset, you talk about the power of the mind and emotions. Every time you get upset, worried, angered, you have this pharmacy in your body and it starts the chain reaction. The minute you start, like you even read something and your automatic thing is fear or anger or anything like that, immediately your body starts releasing cortisol. And then the chain reaction just goes. And that's why you have to control your thoughts. You can't let your thoughts control you. And it's easier said than done, but it's very powerful when you can do that because again, we have a pharmacy in our body. And remembering that there was a study that was done on Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's is a dopamine deficiency, and they gave them half the group a placebo that increased dopamine, and the other they gave the actual drug. And what they found at the end of that study is the ones that were given the placebo had increased their dopamine by 200%. There's no way you could even do that with medication. And that is how powerful your thoughts are. Again, you have a pharmacy in your body, and how you respond to things starts the reactions on different things.
And we know, we've talked about this, you and I've talked about this. Your body is an electrical system. That's why we can sense people's negative energy or positive. You know, when you meet somebody, sometimes you said, I didn't kind of connect with them. That's the electrical impulses in your body. And these neurotransmitters that you talk about, these chemicals like dopamine, they jump in between cells and can either, if it's not working well, like Parkinson, you can be stiff, rigid. When it's working well, you're smooth and everything like that. All right, we've got so much to talk about. Let's make tracks. because I promised the ladies last week an hour. We were actually on another platform, C. David Campbell, C. David Solomon platform what was that, last Thursday? So this,
Yes.
I promised the individuals that have come over to this platform this week, I would not leave the ladies out. So let's jump into something you and I have talked about a lot: estrogen levels and ratios. For individuals that are perimenopausal or postmenopausal, they're menopausal, they're losing their hair, maybe having vaginal dryness, painful intercourse. Tell us, what levels do you need an estrone, estradiol? These are female hormones. What are the ratios? Also, let's not leave the men out. Men with low testosterone.
Right.
What levels should they have, the ratio of testosterone to estrogen? And when should you have those blood works drawn? So a lot of questions I threw at you.
No,
Go
that's
ahead.
fine. I have a whole chapter on hormones in my book. I've worked with hormones for more than 20 years. It's something I'm passionate about. I've had my own different experiences. And even when I studied, when I had a complete hysterectomy when I was 53, and I knew about hormones and started replacing immediately. But I still started to see problems, which comes back to my genes. I had a COMT gene, and my body burned through estrogen like it was no other. And so what happened is my numbers just kept going down and down, even though I was using it. And so I ended up finding this doctor that I ended up working with, and she just explained to me, because of my MTHFR gene, my COMT gene, that it was affecting how much it was using my estrogen really fast. So I have to take a lot of estrogen to get mine into the right range. Now, because I don't have any parts, I like my numbers between 250 and 300. Women that still have their reproductive, usually they can get it as high as 125 without having breakthrough bleeding. The best time, if you think you're going into perimenopause, and again, I talk about this in my book, is day 12 of your cycle will tell you where you should be. If you are a healthy female, and you should have this clear up into your 40s, 45, 50, you should be coming in between 4 to 500. That's where you should be. So if you go get a blood test and your number's coming in on day 12 at 150 or 200, you're already losing your estrogen. And the bad thing is, and you want to test estradiol, that's your good estrogen. That protects your brain from dementia, your heart from heart disease, and your bones from osteoporosis. Then you have the ugly stepsister, estrone. That is the one that takes you down the cancer pathway. And so with that one, you always want to make sure it's below your estradiol numbers. And what happens as we age is our estradiol starts to go down, and then estrone goes up, and you got to watch it. Now, I believe every woman, and I don't care who you are, whether you're replacing or not, should be on stuff to get rid of the bad estrogens. We have xenoestrogens everywhere around us. So I use a product called DIM, and I can send Orville a link for some of the supplements we talk about that I recommend and that I use with people. But if you have CYP genes, these are genes that you struggle with estrogen. Your body wants to store the bad estrogens. It wants to go down the estrone pathway. By using DIM, and I use
How do you spell that, Michelle?
It's just a capital DIM. It's dimethyl. It's a really long name. And then I also use not carbonate. Calcium deglucarate. That's another one. Sometimes I alter them, but what they do is they get rid of the bad estrogens in your body. So if you're struggling with weight and everything, and your estrogen dominance, which what I call it is really is a progesterone deficiency, then you can use that to help get rid of the bad estrone. And then you can go to Amazon, or actually I have a place where I like their progesterone that you can just get online. It's not, you don't have to have a prescription, and it's something, and then you just use it. Like people that still have a cycle, I have them to use it the second half of their cycle, and it makes a huge difference. And it's something you just use for 2 or 3 months, and then you should go off of it, and then your body should re-regulate. I see this a lot with people that have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. We see that a lot with these young girls. You'll see that they have really bad cystial acne, their hair is thin, they're overweight, and that is PCOS PCOS is an insulin problem, too much carbs and too much sugar in your diet. Carbs and sugar deplete progesterone, diminish estrogen, and increase testosterone. And so you get all the bad androgens from that, and it causes you to have all the things you don't want to have. And so by balancing out things, it's better. When it comes to ratios, your estradiol should be 10 times higher than your testosterone. So with women, like if they're replacing their testosterone, I always tell them, I don't want to see it higher than 70. If you start taking it, and there are doctors that do just, I call it testosterone replacement. It's not hormone replacements. You have to have a balance in all three of them. When you're too extreme in one, it creates an imbalance in the system and you're never going to feel good. And I don't care how much testosterone they give you. If you don't have a balance in your estradiol and your progesterone, you're not going to have a libido. It is amazing when you fix the estrogen and progesterone and wait till later. You know, when I did mine, I waited for 4 or 5 months before I added in, and I do a tiny bit once or twice a week. I don't need a lot of it because I have my estrogen and progesterone balanced, and so I have a great libido because of that. It's not about the testosterone. And so you want to make sure, so when you're testing testosterone for women, it's going to be on day 14. And if you're checking progesterone, you want to do that on day 18, 19. Those are the days.
What if I don't have a cycle?
If you don't have a cycle, no, it doesn't matter when. And the thing is if you are under 40 and you don't have a cycle, that is not good. I have noticed, like I did a lot with fitness models, and because they diet down so much, they don't have cycles. Every single one of the girls that I worked with, and this was 18 years ago that I worked with them, all ended up with a reproductive cancer. Why? Yeah. Is because that estrone goes up, and they don't have
that lining of the womb.
Yep, they're not shedding.
Month. Right.
Yeah, and we are meant to do that. Your period is a good thing. It keeps you from aging. Estrogen feeds your type 2 collagen. It's what keeps you from wrinkling. It's so important for your hair. When you start to get the hair that it's like straw, yeah, it's because you don't have enough estrogen. It's huge for muscles and joints. I know in mine, my estrogen dips down if I get where I've been using it in the same area and it kind of gets a little blunted. My joints and my muscles will start to ache, and I know, oh, I need to run blood work. And so those are symptoms, and I talk about this all in my book. Men, andropause is a very real thing. And the reason why you want to watch the testosterone is, unfortunately, a lot of urologists think that testosterone adds to prostate cancer. I've read studies that are quite the opposite. My husband was diagnosed like 13 years ago. Well, we replace his testosterone, and it has not progressed. It has just kind of stayed. You know, I have a wonderful oncologist that I work with, and he says, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But I watch the estrogen. Estrogen is what's going to feed it. It's not the testosterone. Because if you look at it, you don't see very many 20 and 30-year-old men with prostate cancer. It's the men that are older because their testosterone has dropped, and now they're struggling with prostate issues.
And their midsection too.
Yes.
The midsection feeds the estrogen cycle.
You bet.
Right.
And men want to keep their estradiol, you know, so when you're running your test, you know, you want to do PSA, you want to check free and total testosterone, and you want to check your estradiol. That should come in. I don't want to see that higher than 38. I don't want it really low either. I don't want it below 30, because when you get it too low, then they start having menopausal symptoms. So, you know, if someone's giving you, or you're thinking about testosterone replacement therapy, it's really important for you to start on it, and then 4 to 6 weeks later, see if your estrogen jumps up before you run to a estrogen blocker. And some people need that. And also, if you're going to replace testosterone and you're a male, I highly recommend that you use HCG. What happens when you use just testosterone is
Isn't that a pregnancy hormone?
No.
So that's going to freak some people out, because it's saying you're recommending a pregnancy hormone. So what do you say to that?
Well, that's not what it does, but it does work on our reproductive. And what its job is with men is it helps the body so it doesn't shut off the testosterone production completely. It doesn't shut the factory down. When you take testosterone, the body's like, oh, I guess we don't need to make any more. We'll close the factory. HCG comes in and says, no, 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 we need to see some workers here. And what I found is people that use the HCG, they don't need to have as much testosterone. They can use half of it sometimes. My husband hardly has to use any because he uses HCG. And there are some people that just doing HCG will help them to make more of their own testosterone. But we have a problem, I talk about toxins and the hormone problems that we're seeing is because of the toxins in our environment. But I am seeing 20 and 30 and 30-year-olds that have testosterones that are like 200 and 300. That is not normal. A man's testosterone, especially when you're young, and when I have my husband replace his, I keep it around 900 to 1100. You don't want it super high. There are problems. Again, there are reference ranges for a reason, and you don't want it super high. There's problems with that. You get your testosterone too high, whether you're a man or a woman, your hair is going to fall out. You can count on it. And
Absolutely.
so watching your numbers, you start noticing all this shedding, check your numbers because you never want them to be too high. And so these are things that you have to look at. And like I said, andropause is a real thing. I will tell you, I know
when you say andropause, we're referring to the androgenic hormones, which are testosterone, as opposed to the female hormones, which is estrogen. In case some people are a little lost when we say andropause.
It's
like
the men's menopause, lady.
Right.
You'll notice that. It's the men's menopause. But it is a very real thing. And testosterone isn't just good for libido. You need it for energy. You need it to maintain your lean muscle mass. It's what gives men drive in life. And I noticed, like for my husband, when his started to drop is he became more emotional. And I don't do emotional. And so I'm just like, I know we have to fix this. I can't handle this. So,
and also it manufactures, helps to manufacture red blood cells. For when my patients are on dialysis and their androgen levels, testosterone levels drop, if you don't replace them, then you end up using more erythropoietin to stimulate their red blood cells growth. Couple of things I want to talk to those folks who have just joined us. Welcome to Inside Your Health. We're talking about You Can Beat Genetics, a book by my friend, many years, over 20 years, Michelle LeSueur. This is her second book. And so welcome to the platform. Michelle, they want you to put in the chat the estrogen supplement that you recommend. Also, I just mentioned the name of your book. I also want to say to anyone, please, please feel free to interrupt us. Put anything you like in the chat if you're a little shy, and we will answer those questions, whether it be about genetics, hormone supplements, diet, any of those things. Now, this was a big topic on our last platform last Thursday. Everyone thinks magnesium is magnesium, and I know there are a lot of forms, so as quickly as you can, tell us, why would I use a magnesium supplement versus another? And why do we even need magnesium?
Well, it works on over, I want to say 400 different functions in our body is require magnesium for our body. And it is the number one thing that I see when I look at deficiencies. So I do testing with people besides genetics. I look at their genes and say, okay, because of your genes, these are the things that you need to be taking to keep your body healthy. But I also do testing, what they call intracellular test, where you actually look and test for vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and redox molecules. And what that tells you is what's actually making it to the cell. Magnesium, and that's something I always take, I was deficient in. And I'm like, wait a minute, how could I be low in magnesium? I take this every single day, and I take like the best forms. I formulate supplements. I've worked in labs. I can put things together myself. And I'm just like, how can I be deficient? But what I didn't realize was, as I was getting my book put together, is that in order for me to use the magnesium, I needed some B6, I needed B1 and B2, and I had some deficiencies there. So that's why it was doing it. But magnesium, for every one sugar molecule in your body that you take in, you rob the body of 52 molecules of magnesium. And we get plenty of calcium in our diet, but we don't have enough magnesium. We're constantly robbing from that bank account. And so by taking it every day is really important. So there's different ones that you can use. Of course, magnesium citrate's a great one to use if you need it to go to the bathroom. 70% of women are constipated. That's just reality. And so magnesium citrate's a good one. You take it before you go to bed at night. It'll help you sleep, but it'll also help you to make sure that you eliminate in the morning. And then you have magnesium glycinate. This is one of my favorite ones. I use a glycinate or a biglycinate. This is a great one to take it at night to, just kind of help you relax, help you to sleep better. 3-8 is, this is really important for cognitive health. So those people that are struggling to remember things, that's the one that you want to do. Orotate, this goes deeper into our cells. And some people, you can take a combination where it has multiple different types of magnesium in it. So orotate is good for helping to drive the magnesium into the cells. Taurate is another form, and that's for people that struggle with blood pressure. I know, like even with my husband, he genetically is predisposed to high blood pressure. But by using magnesium, he's not on, he's 70 and he's not on any medications for blood pressure. So magnesium is something that can really help for that. And then malate, that's a really good one for people that struggle with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, the way it affects muscles. So, you have kids, like I've seen even with my own son, when he'll eat too much sugar, his legs will just hurt. And it's because he needs more of that magnesium malate because it's affecting his muscles. If you have any kind of twitching, like you notice, like, you might have something here, it's just twitching or eye twitch, that's a magnesium deficiency. And so, and the thing is, you have to watch with magnesium too. You don't want to ever take zinc and magnesium together. They cancel each other out, and both are very important minerals. So what I do is I always make sure I take my zinc with my dinner or in the afternoon, and then I take my magnesium right before I go to bed at night.
B12. I'm sure we have a lot of vegetarians and vegans on here tonight. Why is it important that B12 is a must? It's not an option, it's a must for vegetarians and vegans, and in some pescatarians too.
Well, because B12 it's effective as far as your nerve function. All your nerve function needs B12. It's also huge for fat burning. Your body, in order for your body to burn fat, you have to have plenty of B12. Energy comes from B12, but you have to have it in the right form. And so you don't want to do a cyanocobalamin. So you'll read on the back of it, it'll go, oh, B12, this comes from cyanocobalamin. Well, when you hear that cya, think of cyanide. That's what it converts to. And the only time I use a cyanocobalamin is if I have someone that is like 70 or 80 and they really need to get it in. I'll use it then because over time, they're probably not going to live long enough that it'll affect them. But younger people, I never use that. And we hear people talk about MTHFR and we need everything methylated. No, that is false. What happens is if you have an MTHFR gene and then right after it, you have what they call an MTR and an MTR, you can't do things that are methylated. You're methyl sensitive, and I'm one of those people.
And what do we mean by methylated? I know
that is that is your detoxification process, how your body takes different things and uses it in your body. And I give a really great explanation in the book on that. But it's a necessary process for your body to utilize nutrients, for you to detoxify. It's just part of the process. And what happens is if you can't methylate properly, you're going to have all kinds of problems, all different kinds, depending on what other genes come after it. So that's why it's always important to know these things. So the form that I prefer, and I've only found one multivitamin, and I can get that to you guys too. I can, maybe before we get off, I'll just have to see if I can grab my links and put them in the message. But I like hydroxycobalamin. That is for people that are methyl sensitive. And the nice thing about with the hydroxycobalamin is you can use that if you need methylated and you're not methyl sensitive, because it's the last stage that B12 gets broken down to. So it's always the better form, and it's the body uses it better. So you usually can find it as hydroxycobalamin or adenosine. And so it's usually, you can find it a couple. I know that Pure Encapsulation is a brand that they carry it. You know, you can just get that on Amazon.
And Michelle, you can send me the list and I'll make sure people get it on the platform so you're not
Okay.
under the gun to provide
Okay.
links.
Yeah,
There's a
I'll send
couple of
a bunch of different
questions.
links of my favorites.
Okay, beautiful. Someone just asked, would you mind repeating the magnesium that helps with cognitive function?
That one should be the taurate. Let's see. Yeah, threonate. It's THR. So think of the word three, THRE, and then onate. Threonate.
And someone asked a question. I'm not sure I understand the question. Is there a magnesium complete?
You know what? I don't know if there's one that has all of them. And some you have to watch because some of them use magnesium oxide, and I don't like oxide anything at the end of any of my minerals because oxide means it's rusting, it's breaking down. So I never use anything that has oxide at the end of a mineral. So that's why if you can find these different things in my book, I do list all the different forms, the better ones that I recommend. And I do that on several different things as I talk about different nutrients, why you need them. What are the symptoms that I might have a deficiency? Because maybe you can't go get a blood test, or you can't afford it or whatever. You can read through it and say, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that's me. So I give you all of that. I even tell you some of the foods you can find it in. So if you want to get it through diet. I see there's one that says, is there a problem with milligram?
Magnesium poisoning.
No, I've yet nobody has enough magnesium. I mean, I do.
No.
If you knew how much, and I do a liposomal nano, which that gets into your bloodstream thing, and I do a massive dose, and I still can't seem to get enough.
Yeah, and I can tell you that when I was on my OBGYN rotation, and people were in preeclampsia, and they give massive amounts intravenously of magnesium. And you know what they have to do to figure out if you're magnesium toxic? They have to do your tendon reflexes. And if you have none, then you're magnesium. It's almost impossible to get magnesium poisoning unless, one caveat, unless you have a kidney problem where you have very low kidney function, then you have to be careful of some of the vitamins and minerals, especially vitamin C. Vitamin C is converted in the body to oxalate. And if you have kidney issues, it can get too high in your body and you end up getting kidney stones, oxalate stones. So we have to be careful with that. Keep the questions coming in the chat. And if you're not shy, you can interrupt us. We don't mind. We're here to serve you. Let's talk about vitamin E, overdoing it on vitamin E. And also, let's also talk about the omega fatty acids in fish. So I tell you what, let's tie it all up in a neat bowl of the fat-soluble vitamins. A, D, E, and K are your fat-soluble vitamins that can be stored versus your water-soluble vitamins, which you can urinate out. So let's talk about the fat-soluble vitamin.
I like to call them DAKE. And I have only one brand that I recommend. Again, I'll send you the link that has it. But the reason why I like this one, well, first of all, there has been a lot of different studies showing that just by taking a DAKE supplement and a mineral supplement, it's like life-changing for people's health, because those are the two major things that people are depleted in. But the form of vitamin E matters. So let me explain this. There are several genes that and I see this is something I see common, like almost on every single genetic test, where a lot of people can't do their vitamin E from what they call a tocopherol. So when you look at vitamin E on the back of your supplement, it'll say vitamin E and then it'll say tocopherol. That takes a lot of people that have multiple genes down the inflammation pathway. So when they take it, their joints and everything, they're noticing that it hurts. The best form of vitamin E is what they call a tocotrienol. And it's hard to find it because the vitamin E or the DAKE product that I use uses a tocotrienol, and the omega that I use from the same company also uses it. the tocotrienol in it. So vitamin E, when I formulate, and when I was working in a manufacturing facility and working in the lab putting formulas together, vitamin E sometimes is used as a stabilizer and also a preservative. So that's why you want to learn to read labels. So for me, I have 3 or 4 genes that I can't have tocopherols, and I sure feel it if I get any, or even if I eat foods high in tocopherols, like nuts and seeds and things like that. I feel it. The next day, I can just count on it. And it's because it's creating the inflammation. So the omega that I use, it's an omega-3, and it has the tocotrienol that they use. And the studies on tocotrienol, and I talk about this in my book, are huge for cancer, tumors, actually making tumors become anemic and die. And it's huge. It's been used like for prostate cancer and breast cancer. That's when they did studies, the people that had those 2 particular cancers saw massive improvement just from taking a high dose of a tocotrienol. And so those are the forms that you want to get it. And the form that you take supplements in matters. And I do talk about that a lot in my book. If you're going to take this supplement, you want to do it in this form. This is better for the body. You want to stay away from this one because of this. So it does matter. But those are, like I said, making sure you're getting omegas are so important for a lot of things. They help shut down inflammation. So you want to make sure that you're shutting down those forms, and you want to get a good clean source. Another thing is the one that I use is a practitioner blend, and it makes a difference. People say, well, why can't I just get it at Costco? Well, what they don't realize is when a practitioner product, they use pharmaceutical grade. What does that mean? For every 100 gallons of oil that they process to make it pharmaceutical grade, only 10 gallons are usually left. All of the rest is sold to Walmart, Costco, Walgreens, all these other places. And they're usually loaded with heavy metals. And so that's why using a quality omega. And then even then, I keep my omegas in my fridge. Any kind of oils, you don't want them going rancid. And rancid oil in the body will damage your cells so fast. So,
Michelle, I looked at my CoQ10.
Oh, we got to talk about that one.
And I realized they put tocopherol, the vitamin E in there. And while I appreciate the vitamin E, because remember, vitamin E is the body's natural anticoagulant. In other words,
you need vitamin E.
Prevents clots.
Yes.
So it's protective against stroke. Let's pivot over to CoQ10. What is it, and why do we need it?
So we all have it, and when about 30 is when it starts to really decline. And if you have the any of the cardiovascular genes, that you're high risk for cardiovascular event, CoQ10, you want to take 1,200 milligrams a day. And here's the good news. With CoQ10, it really doesn't matter which brand, other than I'm like you. I'm always looking for one that isn't using a tocopherol in it. That's my thing. But you want to find one, if you do 1,200 milligrams a day, that's what's going to protect you from a cardiovascular event. But we need that. It's really important for a lot of different things. That's another one that I highlighted in my book. It's anti-aging. It makes a huge difference in your quality of life. And again, if you have problems with cardiovascular issues, or heart attacks in your family, or stroke, you're someone that wants to take the CoQ10, and you want it in the ubiquinol. And one of my practitioner friends did all this research, and she was saying how there's only one manufacturer of CoQ10. So we all have to buy the raw material from one place. So what I look for is, again, because I formulate, I want to find one that just mostly just has the CoQ10 and is not using a tocopherol. So that's my when I'm looking for one, that's the one I look for.
Excellent. I want to dispel the myth that eggs are really bad for us.
Oh, you don't want to get me started on that.
No, it's let's talk about eggs as it relates to cholesterol and something called choline, choline, and why is that important?
Okay, choline is so important for the brain. As we age, it's what keeps our brain lubricated. As we age, we lose it, and more people aren't eating eggs. I look at my mother-in-law, she lived to be 98. And what's interesting is she lived on her own, drove, did everything till she was about 93. And then her doctor took her off her estrogen and she started down the dementia pathway. But that woman, and while we're talking about this, eggs are what I call God's perfect food. And people don't realize that that the stuff in both parts of the eggs help cancel the bad things out. It creates this balance. And so to me, like I said, I love eggs. I eat eggs almost every day. And let's talk about the cholesterol myth that I'm tired. And I address this in my book too. But cholesterol, you go back to I think it was 1969. Healthy cholesterol was anything under 400. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so today
they're
trying to
down
keep it
now to below 150 to 200.
Yeah. You want to be between 200 and 300. That is a healthy range. And you still want to watch your HDL and LDL, making sure that omegas are what's going to help increase the HDL. So you, again, back to ratios. You got to keep those ratios balanced. But I love eggs. My brain works really good, and I have to work with a lot of technical information. And again, I consider eggs God's perfect food. But you do want to get some that are free range, that are not, you're not buying them at, Walmart. I mean, unless they're the ones like I do get, I want free range. I want, that they're not fed a bunch of soy. I don't want that. So, that does matter. And so I love eggs, and it's something I eat regularly. Now, some people have a hard time with eggs. They might have an allergy or some sulfur issues. And a lot of that I can offset by using back to minerals, molybdenum and manganese. Most people are depleted in that, and certain genes really need a lot of that. And so I'm able to kind of offset things with that. But I agree with you. Eggs they're God's. We don't get enough protein in our body, and those of you that are vegetarian and vegan, one of my biggest frustrations with people that choose that way of eating, which I have no problem with, is you need to do it properly. Meaning you got to learn to food combine. You better have your beans and your rice, because one or the other, those are incomplete proteins. You need that amino acid protein file. And so, again, if that's the lifestyle you're going to choose, and I've seen some people do it well, where I can go and look at their blood and they don't have massive deficiencies. Unfortunately, a lot of people just say, well, I'm not going to eat meat, and then they just eat nothing but carbs, and they have so many deficiencies, it's crazy. Okay,
they overdo it on the nuts and gain weight, and then that causes a whole lot of problem. Now, a couple of questions in the chat. It says, is 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C supplement too much for the kidneys? Not really. It comes into play because you'll just urinate out the excess. And vitamin D is good in so many ways. It's needed for healthy collagen. It's needed for healthy gums. Again, but too much of a good thing is not great, especially if you have reduced kidney function. Again, remember, it's converted into oxalate. The same thing that's in certain teas. Certain teas have an overabundance of oxalate. So therefore, you can get kidney stones. So again, it depends on the kidney function. And I think someone was asking this magnesium tartrate, is this the magnesium that's good for cognitive function? Okay, that I think we answered that already.
No, that's 3 and 8 is what that is supposed to 3.
And I think someone was asking also, talk about soy products, please. There's
I am
lot
anti
of things around soy products, and
this is
does it increase the inflammation? There are 3 areas, main areas you can set up inflammation in the body. We won't go into 3 areas, but does soy products set up inflammation in the body? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Also, I want you to comment on this, Michelle. For men who are looking to decrease their phytoestrogen, address that as well.
So if they're looking to decrease it, they're going to be someone that wants to use DIM, that they're getting bad of those xenoestrogens and soy. So I've been to Japan a few times, when I've worked for different companies and I had to go speak, and their soy is not the same as what we have in the United States. All their soy is fermented. So if you're going to do soy, you want to do a fermented soy. If it's not been fermented, it's been highly processed, and it is going to increase all your estrogens and not good estrogens. And so I'm not a fan of soy in this country. Do I have a problem eating soy in other countries? No, I'm fine with it because, again, they don't do what we do to our soy. And that's why, a lot of these soy proteins and everything, they take your body down a pathway that's a cancer pathway. And so I'm not a fan of it, especially because of how they process it. People don't realize that the process that they do, usually they're in big aluminum vats. They're usually are really high in heavy metals, especially aluminum. And so if you're going to do soy, make sure it's a fermented soy. Then
is that the reason why some people eat sauerkraut as well?
Yes, exactly. Well, it's the reason why is this. Soy or any beans. I mean, if you're doing beans, like I said, back to food combining, you really need to be soaking your beans or even put them in something to ferment them. So it breaks down the lectins and the things that are really hard on your stomach. Beans and all your legumes are extremely hard on your digestive tract. And that's why when you go into other countries that use it all the time, they already know that. You're not supposed to, you got to take and you need to ferment them and you need to soak them because that helps to break down those lectins so it's more digestible. And so that's why, like I said, soy, again, it's still part of the legume family. It is extremely hard on your stomach. Extremely.
So grandma was right for soaking her beans for
you
the
bet
right
she was.
Overnight. And
You
here's
bet.
the thing about lectins. We know we've heard a lot about lectins. Lectins are in legumes. They're in tomatoes in high quantities. That's why I can't do a lot of tomato sauces. Lectin does ignite a certain portion of the inflammation tract. That's why it's important to soak those beans, and that's really important. Question says, a person age 50 going through menopause, what are the best vitamins you should recommend that they take?
Okay, well, again, is supporting all systems, but once you hit 50, I'm a huge proponent of replacing your hormones. It makes a difference in your quality of life. It just does. And again, my thing is yeah, we're meant to age, and there's no way you're going to slow it down. You're just not. But to me, I don't want aches and pains. I mean, even for me, if I was diagnosed with breast cancer tomorrow, I would say thank you very much, and I would continue to use my estrogen because how miserable I am without it is not worth it to me. I'd rather not be here. And that's my own personal opinion. But
so what do you say to the individuals who have the BRCA genes?
Yeah, they have a BRCA gene.
BRCA genes and estrogen replacement.
Yes. There's a product that someone was telling me about, and I need to investigate it, that they're using some kind of fermented, kind of like a probiotic that's helping women with vaginal dryness and those things like that. But I always feel really bad for them. There are things, like I said, if you support your adrenal glands, your adrenals are what make your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. I think everyone, again, should be on an adrenal supplement. You just should. And you need to support that system because that helps with it. Ashwagandha, I love ashwagandha. I did a big presentation a week ago on ashwagandha, why it's such an important nutrient. Again, it nourishes the adrenal glands. It's very important. It's huge for helping to balance cortisol levels. Some people have what they call flipped cortisol level. When they wake up in the morning, they're tired, they don't feel like doing anything, but by the end of the day, they have all this energy and then they can't sleep at night. Well, that's a lot of times you'll see it's because it should be the opposite. So if you're waking up in the morning and you don't have any energy and you don't want to get up and get going, you got a cortisol imbalance. And ashwagandha is really great for using that. So I have a product that I work with and I do lecturing on, and it has a lot of different ingredients, but I love it because it does use a lot of adaptogens. And adaptogens are great because that's what they're doing in your body. They're helping the body to adapt. If something's too high, it's going to bring it down. If it's too low, it's going to bring it up. And that's why I love when I formulate using adaptogens is something I love using. So yes, ashwagandha is really good. There's a lot of things you can do, like evening primrose helps the body with a little bit of estrogen. And there are some natural ingredients. There's a natural supplement And there's that I can send, I'll send to Orville in that list. That is a good one that I think you can get it on Amazon that kind of really helps people through perimenopause. So the sad thing for me is I am seeing more and more women going into menopause way early. You should not be going into menopause before 50. If you are there, your body has got too many toxins. It's a sign that your liver
Why
is.
is that happening though, Michelle? Because there's a trend of more and more to younger menopause. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Why women are going into menopause earlier.
Well, part of it is a lot of the toxins in our environment are they create estrogen dominance, progesterone deficiencies, and two, people I noticed that use the Mirena birth control. I've noticed that all of
What's
them.
the Mirena birth control?
It's you can get it as a ring that they put it on the cervix, or they use an IUD and it has those hormones in it. The bad thing is that it creates an imbalance, and what it does is it drives the estrogen down. Pretty much, usually when I see someone coming off of it, their estradiol will come in at around 80, 70 or 80, and they're pretty much menopausal is what it's done, and that's a bad thing. So I'll tell everyone, if you need to use, birth control, use a copper IUD. It'll give you the protection you need without the hormones. You don't want to mess with your hormones. And condoms work great. And so, those are the two things I recommend. I'm not a fan of birth control pills because, again, the literature, go in and look at the literature. Girls that start on birth control really young end up higher risk for breast cancer, and they get it young. And so I would not, and a lot of the times, and this is a mistake that doctors make, they'll say, oh, let's just put her on birth control pills. Well, they don't need birth control pills. They need to stop eating sugar and carbs, and a little bit of progesterone cream will fix that. I can literally, in a week or two, fix cystial acne on a young girl and her mood. If you have a daughter that's PMSing, she probably doesn't have any progesterone. Progesterone's your happy hormone. And so, like I said, you can go on Amazon and buy a progesterone cream, or I'll give Orville a link for one that I like. And you can do that, and you just do it for a couple months. It balances the system out, and then usually you're okay. And so those are some of the things that you can do.
All right. Again, for those of you who've just joined us, and we've had more people join us, welcome to Inside Your Health. I'm Dr. Orville Campbell. I'm with Michelle LeSueur, a naturopathic practitioner. We're talking about our book, You Can Beat Genetics. And we'll
show you guys what it looks like. It looks like this.
There you go.
So,
and it's a beautiful cover. And you've got a really great doctor that wrote a blurb.
I know.
Self-promotion. Before we go, we're going to go about 5 minutes over since we got started a little late. I want to emphasize more studies are showing that testosterone is protective against cancer. So don't let anyone tell you if you need testosterone supplementation, that's going to cause a problem. We cannot end this without you talking about pre, pro, and postbiotics.
Okay, so I had someone ask me one time, what are 3 things that you would recommend for good health? If you only could take 3 things, what would they be? And I thought for a moment, and I said, number 1, your cells have to signal. If your cells don't signal, nothing else matters, and that's redox molecules. Number 2, your hormones have to be balanced. Your hormones are the messaging. They take that signal, and they take that message, and they get it to the right receptor sites or the right package to the right building so that things can happen the way they're supposed to. And lastly, you have to have good gut health. Pre and post and probiotics are huge for having a healthy biome. Your biome determines 70% of your immune system is in your gut. And so when you don't have enough of the right bacteria in your gut, what happens is things start setting up house. I always say visualize a parking lot. And when bacteria, viruses, and stuff that we're exposed to come in, they're looking for a parking space. If those parking spaces are full of probiotics and the right biome and bacteria, they can't set up shop. And so you stay healthy. And so, I'm around sick people all the time. And even like when COVID was going around, I give myself certain things. I know when I've been around people, oh, I better take this. And I just stay really healthy. I'm not a fan of being sick. Some people do that, but So that's why you need, it's one of those things that it's not, should I? And the kind that you take matters. I have one that I love, again, that I'll share with Orville, that it has 16 different strains, and it has unique strains. Because, I mean, there's lots of lactobacilluses and Bidophilus and everything, but I want some of the strains, like I want spores. I want things like that. We don't get dirty enough anymore. We become too antiseptic. And because of that, our whole microbe system is off. And what people don't realize, going back to genetics, did you know that your gut biome has their own genetics that can influence your genetics? Again, we're bacteria and we're electric. Those are the two main things that we are as human beings.
So those mud pies we ate as kids,
best
really,
thing ever. That's why our generation is healthier.
Crawl on the floor anymore because oh my goodness, they're gonna
get dirty.
Yep. So how can I know what my genes are? How do I get my genes tested?
Yes. So, and someone's asking, am I available for virtual consult? Yes, I have a website that I will send to, and it's all throughout my book. I have my website. So those people that want to set up an appointment with me, they can. And the person that said, I live in Toronto, my book is on Amazon. So you can just go to Amazon and You Can Beat Genetics and you'll find it there. And so, I lost my train of thought real quick. What were we just saying?
You're talking about
genes.
Getting the book in
yes.
Amazon.
If you've done,
is there a link that you'll send us?
I will send that in there too. So if you've already done an Ancestry DNA or a 23andMe DNA test, you just need to download your raw data, and then you can set up an appointment with me. And then and there's a program that I use that prints out a comprehensive report. So just so people understand, because I like things being visual. Comprehensive report is wonderful because it will tell you, so we do this, how many copies of the gene that you have. So if you have red, you have 2 copies of that gene. If you have yellow, then you have 1 copy of the gene. It tells you what the gene functions is, what the consequences are, what you need to avoid, and what you need to take. And so this is invaluable. So what I do is I send the raw data through a program and it spits out the report. Then I take the report and I'll say, oh, because of these genes, these are the supplements on where you really need to focus in order for you to be healthy. That's really what you want to do. And I have basic ones, like I've created 5 or 6 different supplements links that I use for people that, you can't afford it. Get on these. Pretty much everyone that uses these, everything is in the right form, that even if you don't have some of these bad genes, you're going to be even better off than those that do have it. So like I said, Ancestry DNA is a good one. My Health is another one. I'll have people just go there. I know they had, you can get a genetic test done for $36. It's not expensive. The biggest thing is getting the raw data. That's what you need. And then once I send it through my program, then that helps me to be able to go ahead and go through and figure out, okay, this is what you need. And so that's how that works.
All right, last 2
questions.
My
Heritage, I'm sorry, not My Health, it's My Heritage is another. Heritage. Yeah.
Last 2 questions. The first one, before I ask you about vitamin D, at what age does menopause begin? That's in the chat.
A healthy woman, it's after the age of 50. I didn't even start perimenopause until I was in my early 50s. So my generation, we didn't go see it till we were 50 to 60. Somewhere in that range is when normally, but I see it all the time. And even my daughter, my oldest daughter is 40. She's 42. She's got a few things. And so I'm supplementing her, but I'm like, no, Shell, you should not be doing this. What's crazy though is just probably 4 or 5 years ago, I ran her estradiol on day 12 and she was at 500. So she was good and healthy, but has 5 children and she's, now she decided to, she's always been an at home, but now she's a soccer coach and she's a kindergarten teacher. And so I'm just like, no, you're not supporting your system. And so I'm kind of on her. I had to go over and set up all her pills. So all she has to do after school is take them. Otherwise she won't take them. I'm just like, I need you to be healthy, sweetie.
So the last question I have for you, this is my favorite vitamin D. What form should I take vitamin D in? I remember years ago we talked about what to hook the vitamin D up to. We were talking about working together to make it transport across the colon a little bit better. What form should I take vitamin D in?
So again, the product that I'm going to suggest to you is a great form. It has the D and the K, and you always want to take vitamin D and K together. But you also want to make sure that you're taking magnesium, because vitamin D needs magnesium in order for you to be able to for you to utilize both of them. So vitamin D is really important, and people don't realize, even as far as weight go, there's a huge couple of studies that I want to reference back. If you struggle where you're hungry all the time, many times that's a vitamin D deficiency. Depression, vitamin D. Kind of have you kind of feel a little bit achy, vitamin D. So there's a lot of things that vitamin D goes to, and you need to have that. And it's really interesting, even going out in the sun. And it's a lot harder when you're black, because you guys are lucky you have all that beautiful melanin in your skin, but it's also harder for you to get the vitamin D. And it was really interesting. I'd gone down to California to the desert, and I'd spent the 2 weeks I was there. I like certain times of the year I'll go and I'll do early morning sun, and it's interesting. I never burned down there, and it sticks like crazy. But went and got my vitamin D levels checked, and they were like 120. And so I always tell people with cancer, if you want to prevent cancer, you need to be between 80 and 100, closer to 100. Anyone that's had cancer, I want you at 100, maybe even a little bit over, because there are studies that correlate that vitamin D protects you. And even back to COVID, when we look at all the people that died from COVID, there was a study out of Italy, and it showed that 100% of the people that died had a vitamin D deficiency. And I look at hundreds of blood tests. I rarely see anybody in normal range that above 70. Most of them are 35, maybe 40. No, that is not where you want to be. You want to make sure, and you want to check it every 3 months, because again, it is a fat soluble vitamin, and you don't want to be too high. So I always tell people, get on a regimen, and then check it to make sure you're not going too high. But if you're really, really low, I will put people on 20,000 IUs for 3 months, and then I run their blood work, and then we adjust from there. So mine was really high, so I only need 5 to 10,000 IUs a day now. But I don't get sick. If you're trying to keep your immune system healthy, you need to be taking vitamin D.
And please do not believe the lab reference range where it goes down to 30. I tell people that every time. That is total nonsense.
Yep.
Don't believe that at all. Make sure you keep it in that 80 to 100 range.
That's the healthy place. That's where you want to be to protect yourself from disease. That's right. Where you want to be.
And be careful if you have kidney disease as well, because it can cause a disproportionate increase in your calcium and phosphorus and cause other problems. Michelle, thank you so much. Hopefully we can have you on again to talk about putting together a great diet. What should be on your plate? Now that we've talked about genes, how it can affect not just tendencies, but disease processes, and the vitamins and minerals we need. Now we need to balance that with diet. And hopefully you can come back on both platforms and talk about diet. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've known you for so long.
I love working with you.
And I hope we can work even closer in the future. So thank you very much. We're going to end with prayer. Remember, every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m., we have our Bible class. And once a month, we do have Inside Your Health to talk about these issues. And then on Saturday or Sabbath morning at 8 a.m., we have our praise and worship service. Let's bow our head. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for knowledge. We thank you so much for wisdom to apply that knowledge. We thank you for this wonderful biological machinery that you created called the human body. Please allow us to use it to bring glory to you. Please give us physical health. Please give us mental health, emotional health, as well as financial and social health. Keep us ever in your presence. Keep us safe throughout the week. In the merciful name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you,
Everyone,
Orville.
thank you, Michelle, and so on. You're an hour behind us, so it's not as late here. So enjoy the rest of
I
your
will.
evening.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. All right.